I always thought my wedding day would be perfect. James had proposed under a canopy of cherry blossoms, and for 6 blissful months, everything was falling into place. Until yesterday, when my phone rang and my mother's voice shattered my happiness with 8 simple words. "Emma needs to be invited to your wedding, Olivia." My sister. The same sister who I caught tangled in my sheets with my college boyfriend 3 years ago. The same sister who looked me in the eyes and said, "He was never going to stay with you anyway." "That's not happening," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "Emma made her choice." "Then we won't be attending," my father's voice cut in. They had me on speaker. "Family is family, Olivia. It's time you grew up and forgave her." The irony of my father lecturing me about family obligations made my blood boil. I ended the call before saying something I'd regret, but the damage was done. My perfect day was now tainted with an impossible choice. That night, I pulled out the old photo albums I'd kept despite everything. There we were, Emma and me, building sandcastles at the beach, matching holiday sweaters, birthday parties where we smeared cake on each other's faces, before she became the person who could betray me without a second thought. If you're enjoying this story and want to hear more family drama and revenge tales like this one, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. I post new stories every Wednesday, and trust me, this one is just getting started. I flipped another page and paused. A faded Polaroid had slipped from between the album sheets. It showed my mother, much younger, holding a baby I didn't recognize. On the back, written in my grandmother's shaky handwriting, Caroline, Rebecca, and Thomas, 1989. Rebecca? I had never heard that name before. The baby couldn't be me. I wasn't born until 1995. It couldn't be Emma either. She was born in 1997. My phone lit up with another call from my mother. I declined it, staring at the photograph. The baby had my mother's eyes, my father's chin. A child that existed before me, before Emma. A child no one had ever mentioned. As my phone buzzed with angry text messages demanding I reconsider my stance on Emma, I felt something shift inside me. If my parents were hiding one secret, what else were they hiding? And why were they so insistent on Emma's presence now, after 3 years of respecting my boundaries? I carefully tucked the photograph into my wallet. Tomorrow, I would visit my grandmother. If anyone knew the truth about Rebecca, it would be her. And maybe, just maybe, I had found a way to turn my parents' ultimatum into something they would regret far more than I ever could. Grandmother's nursing home smelled of antiseptic and forgotten dreams. She sat by the window, frail hands folded in her lap, but her eyes lit up when I entered. I didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Who's Rebecca?" I asked, placing the Polaroid on her side table. Her face transformed, shock, then sadness, then a quiet resignation. "So you found her," she whispered. I wondered when this day would come. "Found who, Grandma? Who is she?" "Your sister, dear. Your parents' firstborn." The room seemed to tilt sideways. "That's impossible. Emma is my only sister." Grandma shook her head, reaching for the photo with trembling fingers. "Rebecca came before either of you. Caroline was 19, Thomas 21. They weren't ready." Her voice cracked. "I begged them to let me raise her, but they were so concerned about appearances, about their futures. They gave away their baby?" The words felt strange in my mouth. "Closed adoption. They told everyone Caroline had gone to stay with an aunt for health reasons. After college, they married, established their careers, and then had you, their real family, as they called it. I thought of my parents' pristine reputation in our community, their insistence on projecting the image of the perfect family, the countless times they'd criticized others for their poor choices. Does Emma know? No one knows except me and your parents, and now you." My mind raced. Did they ever try to find her? Grandma's eyes filled with tears. "Rebecca found them 10 years ago." My heart stopped. "What happened?" "Your father threatened legal action if she contacted them again. Your mother pretended not to recognize the name. They were terrified their secret would destroy the life they'd built." Pieces clicked into place. My parents' obsession with appearances, their harsh judgments of others, their sudden insistence that I forgive Emma despite her betrayal. "Do you know where she is now?" I asked. Grandma hesitated, then reached for her drawer, pulling out a newspaper clipping. "She's a photographer. Award-winning. I've followed her career from afar." The article showed a woman with my mother's eyes and a smile that could have been my own. Rebecca Chen, 35, celebrated for her intimate portraits of found families. That night, after leaving Grandma's, I found Rebecca's professional website. Her work was stunning. Raw, emotional photographs capturing moments of authentic connection between people. Her Instagram showed a thoughtful woman with kind eyes who posted about art openings and her rescued greyhound. My finger hovered over the message button. Inviting Rebecca to my wedding would expose my parents' hypocrisy in the most public way possible. It would force them to face the daughter they abandoned while they lectured me about family obligation. "Family is family," my father had said. I began typing. "Hello, Rebecca. You don't know me, but I'm your sister." We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe across town. I arrived early, rehearsing what I'd say, but every practiced word evaporated when she walked through the door. Rebecca was undeniably my sister. She had our mother's high cheekbones and our father's confident stride. Only her eyes were different. Watchful, wary, wise beyond their years. "Thank you for coming," I said as she sat down. "I'll admit, I was curious." Her voice was gentle but guarded. "When you messaged saying you were Caroline and Thomas's daughter, I almost blocked you. But you didn't." "No." She stirred her coffee slowly. "I stopped trying to contact them years ago. The rejection was absolute." I swallowed hard. "I didn't know you existed until yesterday." Rebecca nodded, unsurprised. "They've built quite the perfect family narrative, haven't they? The successful attorney and the community leader, their two accomplished daughters." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Except there were three. As we talked, Rebecca's story unfolded. Raised by loving adoptive parents who had died within a year of each other while she was in college. Finding her birth parents' names on her original birth certificate. The hopeful letter she'd sent. The cease and desist response from my father's law firm. "I just wanted to know where I came from," she said. "I wasn't looking for parents. I had wonderful ones. I wasn't looking for money or connections, just acknowledgement that I existed." Something broke inside me then. The last remnant of blind loyalty to my parents. "I'm getting married next Saturday," I said suddenly. "Would you come as my guest?" Rebecca's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. "That's not a good idea, Olivia. My parents are insisting I invite our sister Emma, who betrayed me in the worst way. They claim family is family while they've hidden your existence my entire life. And you want to use me as revenge." It wasn't a question. I flushed with shame. "That sounds terrible when you say it aloud." "Because it is." Rebecca gathered her things. "I'm not a weapon for your family drama." As she stood to leave, my phone chimed. A text from Emma. "Looking forward to reconnecting at your wedding, sis. Mom says I can borrow her pearl earrings, the ones you always wanted to wear. Isn't that sweet?" I showed Rebecca the message without a word. She read it, her expression shifting as she sank back into her chair. For the first time, I glimpsed something hard beneath her composed exterior. The anger of a child told she wasn't wanted, wasn't worthy. "When did you say the wedding was?" she asked quietly. "Next Saturday, 3:00. Rebecca looked me straight in the eyes. Maybe it's time we all face the truth. The week before my wedding unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance on the edge of a cliff. While I confirmed floral arrangements and finalized seating charts, I was also texting Rebecca, arranging for her +1 invitation under a friend's name to avoid suspicion. Emma arrived Wednesday, sweeping into my apartment with designer luggage and a rehearsed apology. "I know I hurt you, Liv," she said, her eyes wide with practiced sincerity. "But we were kids then. Can't we move past it?" "Of course," I lied, helping her with her bags. Water under the bridge. That night, As we addressed last-minute invitations, she casually mentioned my ex. "Did you know Ryan's engaged now? To that yoga instructor he met after we broke up." After we broke up. As if they'd been a legitimate couple rather than a betrayal that had sent me to therapy for a year. "How nice for them," I replied, keeping my voice neutral while my pen pressed so hard it nearly tore through the envelope. My parents arrived Thursday, immediately taking control. My mother rearranged the welcome baskets I'd spent hours assembling. My father questioned James about our honeymoon budget with thinly veiled disapproval. "We're just looking out for you," my mother said when I objected. "That's what family does." Family. The word had become a weapon in their hands. That evening, I nearly broke. James found me on our balcony staring at nothing. "What's going on, Liv?" he asked, his hands warm on my shoulders. "And don't say wedding stress. Something's been off since your parents arrived." I turned to face the man I was about to marry, the man who deserved nothing but truth. "There's something I need to tell you about my family." My phone buzzed. Emma, texting from inside. "Mom wants to know if we're doing the mother-daughter brunch tomorrow or Saturday." The interruption closed the moment like a slammed door. "It's complicated," I said instead. "I promise I'll explain everything after the wedding." James studied my face. "No secrets between us, remember? That was our promise." Guilt twisted in my chest. "No secrets," I echoed, already breaking that vow. Friday night, the rehearsal dinner glittered with forced smiles and champagne toasts. Emma charmed James's family. My father networked with the groomsmen, and my mother supervised the servers with military precision. The perfect family on display. In the bathroom, I checked my phone. A message from Rebecca. "I'm in town, room 412 at the Parkview Hotel. Are you sure you want to go through with this?" I stared at my reflection. The daughter who had always followed the rules, always sought approval, always maintained the facade they demanded. "Yes," I typed back. "It's time everyone sees the truth." My wedding day dawned with irritating perfection. Cloudless sky, gentle breeze, temperature exactly as forecasted. Nature apparently hadn't received the memo about the storm brewing inside me. "You look absolutely radiant," my mother gushed as she fastened my grandmother's pearls around my neck, the same pearls Emma had worn yesterday during the rehearsal dinner. "Picture perfect," my father agreed, his voice thick with pride. I smiled and thanked them, marveling at how easily lies flowed between us now. Emma excelled as maid of honor, steaming my veil, organizing bridesmaids, charming photographers. She was everything a sister should be, today. I watched her laugh with my college friends, the same women who'd comforted me through my breakdown after her betrayal. "Having second thoughts?" she whispered as she adjusted my train, catching me watching her. "Not about James," I replied truthfully. The ceremony began with traditional precision. I floated down the aisle on my father's arm, feeling oddly detached from the moment I'd dreamed about since childhood. James waited at the altar, handsome and certain, his eyes filled with a love I prayed wouldn't shatter in the aftermath of what I'd set in motion. As the minister spoke of honesty and trust, I scanned the guests and found her, Rebecca, seated discreetly in the back row, wearing a simple blue dress that matched my bridesmaids exactly. Our eyes locked and something passed between us. Recognition, understanding, a silent acknowledgement of shared blood. James squeezed my hands as we exchanged vows. "I promise to stand by you through every storm," he said, his voice unwavering. Guilt surged through me. Was I destroying my own happiness to punish my parents? Was revenge worth the cost? I nearly faltered, nearly let the moment pass. Then I heard them, my parents whispering in the front row. "Didn't think we'd pull this off," my father murmured. "After that mistake years ago, we deserve this perfect day," my mother replied, her voice carrying just far enough for me to catch the words. That mistake. That's what Rebecca was to them. A mistake, an inconvenience, a blemish on their perfect record. We were pronounced husband and wife. We kissed. We processed down the aisle to thunderous applause, all according to plan. The reception began in the garden pavilion, fairy lights twinkling overhead as dusk approached. Emma made her entrance, followed by the best man. James and I waited in the wings. "You okay?" James asked, noticing my trembling hands. "I will be," I promised, just as the MC's voice boomed through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, before I introduce our newlyweds, we have a special surprise guest the bride has asked me to welcome. Please welcome Rebecca Chen, the bride's sister." The words hung in the air like shattered glass. My mother's champagne flute slipped from her fingers, crashing to the floor. My father went ashen, his confident posture crumpling as Rebecca stepped into the spotlight. She walked with quiet dignity, her resemblance to us unmistakable under the crystal chandeliers. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Confusion, speculation, surprise. My parents recovered quickly, my father moving with practiced smoothness to intercept Rebecca before she reached the main table. "I don't know what game you're playing," he hissed, just loud enough for nearby guests to hear, "but you need to leave immediately." My mother appeared at his side. "This is a private family event," she added, her social smile strained at the edges. I'd anticipated this moment for days, rehearsed my response, but nothing prepared me for the raw fury that surged through me at their dismissal of her. Again. "She is family," I said, moving to stand beside Rebecca. The microphone I'd quietly requested from the DJ was still in my hand. "Rebecca is my sister, my parents' firstborn daughter." The reception froze in collective shock. "Olivia, stop this nonsense," my mother commanded, her voice brittle. "Tell them," I challenged, staring directly into my father's eyes. "Tell them how you gave away your daughter, then built your perfect family on a foundation of lies while preaching about family loyalty." Emma pushed through the crowd, confusion contorting her features. "What is she talking about?" "They had Rebecca before they were ready for a family," I explained, watching realization dawn on my sister's face. "She found them 10 years ago. They rejected her." "Is this true?" Emma asked our parents, her voice small. Their silence was answer enough. James appeared at my side, his expression a mixture of hurt and confusion. "Why didn't you tell me?" he whispered. "I only found out days ago," I said, suddenly realizing the damage I might have done to my own marriage before it had truly begun. The perfect wedding dissolved into chaos, guests whispering, my father attempting damage control with key family friends, my mother escaping to the bathroom. Emma stood frozen, processing that she wasn't the favorite daughter, but merely the replacement for one they'd discarded. Amidst the turmoil, I noticed Rebecca standing alone by the entrance, tears streaming down her face. The victory I'd imagined felt hollow as I watched her wrap her arms around herself, visibly wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake by agreeing to my plan. This wasn't just my parents' carefully constructed image crumbling. It was real people, real pain, real consequences unfolding in real time. And in exposing one truth, I feared I might have destroyed something just as precious. Trust. The remainder of our reception passed in a blur. James and I danced our first dance as planned, but the joy had been replaced by something heavier, more complicated. My parents left without saying goodbye. Emma disappeared shortly after them. Later that night in our hotel suite, James finally spoke the words we'd been avoiding. "I understand why you did it," he said quietly, "but you should have trusted me with the truth." "I was afraid," I admitted. "Afraid you'd talk me out of it. Afraid of disappointing you." Marriage isn't about protecting each other from difficult truths, Liv. It's about facing them together. We talked until dawn, about family, secrets, the damage they cause, and how we wouldn't repeat those patterns in our own marriage. It wasn't the wedding night I'd imagined, but perhaps it was the one we needed. 2 days later, instead of flying to our honeymoon, we postponed it. Some things couldn't wait. Emma reached out first, surprisingly. We met at a cafe where she'd once studied for finals. "I always felt I was competing with a ghost," she said. "Now I know I was." She twisted her napkin nervously. It doesn't excuse what I did with Ryan, but maybe it explains why I was always so desperate for their approval. Understanding dawned slowly between us. Not forgiveness, not yet, but its possibility. My parents refused my calls for weeks. When they finally agreed to meet, it was on their terms, at their home, their fortress. You humiliated us, my father said, anger barely contained. You humiliated yourselves, I countered, by abandoning your daughter and then pretending she didn't exist. No resolution came from that bitter encounter, only the realization that some wounds might never fully heal. Rebecca proved to be the surprise. I found her packing up her hotel room, preparing to return to her life. I spent years imagining confronting them, she said, folding a sweater with precise movements. Reality was both worse and better than I imagined. I'm sorry I used you, I whispered. You gave me something I needed, she replied. Closure. And something I never expected. Sisters. 6 months later, we gathered at Rebecca's studio opening. James and I, Emma, and Rebecca. My parents weren't there, but my grandmother was, holding Rebecca's hand with fierce pride. It wasn't the perfect family from the wedding magazines. There were still raw edges, uncomfortable silences, moments of doubt. But there was also truth. Painful, necessary truth that made space for something authentic to grow. To new beginnings, Rebecca toasted, raising her glass. 4 glasses clinked in the gallery light, an imperfect sound for an imperfect family finding its way forward in honesty at last.